Hello and welcome to Fin 24. Today we're speaking to property practitioner Kevin Kivitz.
Hello.
Welcome, Kevin.
Hi.
Kevin, let's get to the point in terms of compliance. Is there a problem with compliance within the estate agency fraternity?
Yes, there is. The Estate Agency Affairs Board is trying to professionalize the industry, and and through that they have considered certain regulations. But when you speak to estate agents on the ground, they want less regulation instead of more regulation.
But if we're looking at stats from the Estate Agency Affairs Board 2012-2013, in Gauteng alone, we had principal agents with no valid fidelity fund certificates, 103. In KwaZulu-Natal, 131. Western Cape, not doing too badly, 29. But we are looking at nearly 300 principal agents with no valid fidelity fund certificates within a period of a year. That tends to show that more regulation is needed?
Yes, definitely. And I think the other reason for it was that the Estate Agency Affairs Board in the past tried to give certain extensions, and they've just said enough's enough. They are going to now be more rigorous in enforcing the current legislation. Now what you have currently is you have a situation that all estate agents are subjected to an audit, annual audit.
Even those who have not traded on a regular, ongoing basis?
The Act unfortunately does not make any division or separation for that or provision for it. So what would happen is if you do not submit your audit by a certain date, and it's normally four months after the annual the financial period, you are immediately precluded or prevented from trading as an estate agent. So the repercussions thereof is quite serious.
Okay, so are we finding that estate agents are coming on board with this new piece of legislation?
Currently, we still have the old Act that is applicable, but in its endeavours to increase and professionalise the industry, there is a bill that is in its draft format, and it is known as the Property Practitioners Bill. Now you will know that you might have heard recently that the legal profession has gone through a dramatic restructure and overall, where now you don't have the Attorneys Act and Advocates Act anymore. Now you have the Legal Practitioners Act. So if you just listen to the term Legal Practitioners Act, Property Practitioners Act, it's basically bringing those two legislations in line and the profession in line, because we are intended to be professional. Now, I think it's important that estate agents realize that they need to be regulated and seriously regulated. It's a 4.9 trillion rand
I
industry.
am looking at some statistics here which I find quite frightening. Accounting records improperly maintained for the year 2012-2013. Gauteng, 471 incidences. KwaZulu-Natal, 188 incidences. Western Cape, 51 incidences. So you're looking at overall 750 accounting records improperly maintained?
Do you know what's the
And I think that's putting it very nicely.
Do you know what's the danger thereof? You're looking at the protection of the consumer. If you do not have a fidelity fund certificate, the consumer is not protected.
Definitely.
So therefore, it's imperative that the industry realizes how serious this has become, and that we need to ensure that the industry regulates itself to the extent that we look at the consumer. Because if that money should go missing or be misappropriated, then technically there could be no cover for that individual, because the fidelity fund certificate is an insurance policy, where it acts as an insurance policy where the victim can claim against the estate agent board.
Okay. If we're looking at the total contraventions to the Estate Agencies Affairs Act for 2012-2013, we're looking at nearly 4,500 contraventions in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape only. That begs me to ask the question, what should a consumer be asking an estate agent? Are we as consumers asking enough questions?
We are not. South Africans tend to be very submissive. we should ask, can I see your Fidelity Fund certificate?
Do you have the right to do that? As a consumer, do
do
you have
have
the
the
right
right
to say,
to do that.
show me your Fidelity Fund
You
certificate?
have the right to do that. You have the right to request that before you start that business transaction. And too many people fail to do that.
What else should they be asking for?
If they don't have that, obviously they should also understand who they are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because because most times they will be dealing with a firm. Is the person who's working on behalf of the firm, is that a representative of that firm? Because in this industry, we've seen some harrowing tales where there are imposters who takes their deposit and misappropriates that the funds. So ensure that the person has the power of attorney to act on behalf of the firm he says is acting, and then thereafter make sure that you get a Fidelity Fund certificate.
So again, consumers should become a little bit more proactive in terms of their property dealings and not just take everything at face value.
That's correct. I think the people are too trusting. And then also ensure that you speak to the attorney, because the estate agent would have to appoint an attorney. Now, in the attorney's profession, we are much more regulated, we are much more efficient. And you can call the law society, and you can ensure that when you speak to the law society that they will confirm that the attorney is registered. In the same vein, you could call the Estate Agency Affairs Board and ascertain, is this a registered agent?
Also, if there was a hitch with your transaction, if there is something that you're not comfortable with your estate agent, would the consumer then again call the Estate Agency Affairs Board?
At that stage, there will probably be an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You could discuss that with the attorney, who will be in a position to give advice thereon. If there is a conflict between the buyer and the seller, the attorney would then probably say, in this case, because the attorney would normally act for the seller,
Mm-hmm.
then it'd say to the buyer, in this case, I think you must get your own attorney to deal with it. But you are entitled to obviously ask those questions.
Do you think the new legislation will rein in estate agents who have been flouting the law?
I think it will, and I think currently you've got these road shows where the Estate Agency Affairs Board is going to a large extent is going to all the different towns, all different dorpies, and ensuring that the message gets out there. The other thing that has happened is the association, I belong to the Black Conveyancers Association as well as the Law Society of South Africa. We have agreed to partner the Estate Agency Affairs Board to ensure that when we deal with an estate agent, we will also request that they submit the Fidelity Fund certificates to us so that we can ensure that there's compliance.
So compliance and regulation is now what we can look forward to in the estate agency.
I think the buzzword is compliance, compliance, compliance.